The attack came without warning. 800 Velthari warships emerged from hyperspace in the Kepler corridor. There were no defense platforms to slow them down. There were no patrol fleets to sound the alarm. There was nothing but empty space and silence. The first human colony to fall was New Geneva. It was a beautiful world of green forests and blue oceans. 3 million people lived there. Families, children, people who had believed the war was over. The Velthari fleet arrived at dawn. By sunset, the colony was burning. Catherine Moore was asleep in her apartment on Earth when her communicator began to scream. She grabbed it and saw the emergency broadcast flashing across the screen. Her heart stopped. "This is Secretary General Daniel Price. The Velthari have violated the peace accord. All military personnel are to report immediately. God help us all." Catherine was moving before the message finished. She pulled her old uniform from the closet. It still fit, though it felt heavier than she remembered. She was out the door in 3 minutes. The streets of the capital were chaos. People were running, screaming, crying. The news screens on every building showed the same terrible images. Velthari ships descending on human worlds. Cities on fire. Bodies in the streets that Catherine reached military command within the hour. The situation was worse than she had feared. "They came through the corridor like ghosts," Admiral Gregory Brooks said. His voice was hollow. He had been one of the loudest voices in favor of the treaty. Now he looked like a man watching his own funeral. No warning, no detection, nothing. How is that possible? Someone asked. We still had monitoring stations in place. Catherine stepped forward. Her voice was cold and hard. Because we told them exactly where those stations were. The treaty required full disclosure of all military assets and positions. We gave them a map to our own destruction. The room fell silent. The weight of the mistake pressed down on everyone present. "What are our losses?" Catherine asked. Brooks pulled up the tactical display. The map of human space was covered in red markers. Each one represented a world under attack. New Geneva has fallen. Arcadia is under siege. Harvest went dark 3 hours ago. We estimate civilian casualties in the tens of millions already. Catherine closed her eyes. She had warned them. She had begged them to listen. But it did not matter now. The dead were dead. The only thing that mattered was saving whoever was left. "What forces do we have available?" "Almost nothing," Brooks admitted. "Our main fleets were dispersed across the outer colonies. It will take weeks to recall them. The ships we have near the core worlds are patrol vessels and light cruisers. Nothing that can stand against a Velthari battle fleet. Then we need to buy time," Catherine said. "Every hour we delay them is another hour for our people to evacuate. Another hour for our fleets to return." She turned to the communications officer. "Open a channel to every human ship in range. Tell them to engage the enemy wherever they can, not to win, just to slow them down." The officer nodded and began transmitting. Thousands of light years away, Lieutenant Commander Nathan Cole received the message on the bridge of his patrol vessel, the Dauntless. He read it twice, then looked at his crew. "You all heard the broadcast," he said. "The treaty was a lie. The Velthari are attacking our homes, our families, everything we love." The bridge was silent. The faces around him were young, scared, but there was something else in their eyes too. Something that burned. "We cannot defeat them," Nathan continued. "This ship was not built for war, but we can hurt them. We can slow them down. We can give our people a chance to escape." Lieutenant Amy Walsh stood at his side. Her jaw was set with determination. "What are your orders, Commander?" Nathan looked at the tactical display. A Velthari convoy was approaching. 12 transport ships carrying supplies for the invasion. 3 escort vessels protecting them. "We cannot beat the escorts," he said. "But we can make them chase us, draw them away from the transports, force them to split their formation." He began issuing orders. The Dauntless powered up its engines and moved to intercept. The battle was short and brutal. The Dauntless was fast and nimble, dancing between enemy fire like a leaf in the wind. Nathan pushed the ship beyond its limits, drawing 2 of the escorts away from the convoy. "Now," he shouted, "all weapons, target the lead transport." The Dauntless opened fire. Missiles streaked through space. The transport shields flickered and failed. The ship exploded in a ball of fire, but the escorts were returning, and they were angry. The first hit took out the Dauntless's rear shields. The second destroyed the engine room. The third ripped through the hull like paper. "All hands, abandon ship," Nathan ordered. "Get to the escape pods, now." He stayed on the bridge until the last moment, making sure his crew got out. Amy grabbed his arm and pulled him toward the escape hatch. "We have to go, Commander." They reached the pods just as the Dauntless broke apart. Nathan felt the explosion throw him forward. Then everything went dark. He woke up floating in space, sealed inside an escape pod. Through the small window, he could see the wreckage of a ship. He could see the Velthory escorts moving away, satisfied with their kill. But he could also see something else. A civilian transport in the distance. One of the ships that had been hiding nearby. It was picking up the escape pods, saving his crew. Nathan closed his eyes and allowed himself to breathe. They had lost the ship. They had lost the battle. But they had saved 4,000 civilian refugees who had been hiding in the asteroid field. 4,000 people who would live to fight another day. The war had begun again. And this time, humanity would not make the same mistakes. This time, they would remember the cost of trust. This time, they would make the Velthory pay for every drop of blood. Nathan looked out at the stars and made a silent promise to the dead. "We will find a way," he whispered. "We will survive. And when the time comes, we will show them what humanity is truly capable of." The escape pod drifted through the darkness, carrying him toward an uncertain future. But for the first time since the treaty was signed, Nathan felt something he had almost forgotten: hope. The war had lasted for 18 long years. Humanity had fought against the Velthory dominion across dozens of star systems. Billions of people had died. Entire planets had been turned to dust and ash. The enemy was powerful, cruel, and seemed to have no end to their ships and soldiers. Admiral Catherine Moore stood on the bridge of her flagship and watched the stars through the viewport. She was 53 years old now. She had been 35 when the war started. Her hair had turned gray. Her face had grown tired. But her eyes still burned with the fire of someone who refused to give up. The Velthory were not like humans. They were tall creatures with pale blue skin and 4 arms. Their eyes were completely black, like pools of ink. They did not smile. They did not laugh. They saw other species as nothing more than resources to be used and thrown away. Catherine had seen what they did to captured human colonies. She had walked through the ruins of New Helsinki after the Velthory left. She had seen the mass graves. She had heard the stories from the survivors. The Velthory did not take prisoners. They took slaves. But now, after 18 years of blood and fire, the Velthory High Council had sent a message. They wanted peace. Catherine did not trust it. Not for a single moment. She traveled to Earth to attend the emergency meeting of the United Defense Coalition. The Great Hall was filled with politicians, generals, and diplomats from every human world. Secretary General Daniel Price stood at the center, holding the Velthory proposal in his hands. "They are offering us everything," Daniel said. His voice echoed through the silent room. "Full recognition of our territory. Trade agreements that would bring wealth to our colonies. Technology exchange that could advance our civilization by centuries. And all they ask in return is one simple thing." Catherine stepped forward. What did they ask? Daniel looked at her. There was something in his eyes. Hope, perhaps. Or maybe just exhaustion. They want us to demilitarize the Kepler corridor. The room erupted in whispers. Catherine felt her blood run cold. The Kepler. Catherine felt her blood. Catherine felt her blood run cold. The Kepler corridor was a narrow passage of space between Velthari territory and the human core worlds. It was the only route that enemy ships could use to reach Earth and the inner colonies. For 18 years, humanity had poured resources into defending that corridor. Massive space stations, weapons platforms, minefields, patrol fleets. It was the wall that kept the monsters out, and the Velthari wanted humanity to tear it down. This is a trap, Catherine said. Her voice was calm but firm. They want us to remove our defenses so they can strike at our heart. Daniel shook his head. Admiral, I understand your concerns. But our people are tired. This war has taken everything from us. If there is a chance for peace, we must take it. There is no chance for peace with the Velthari, Catherine replied. They do not understand peace. They understand only conquest. This offer is a weapon, nothing more. But the politicians did not listen. They were tired of war. They were tired of sending young men and women to die in the cold darkness of space. They wanted the fighting to stop. They wanted to believe that the enemy had changed. The vote was held 3 days later. The treaty was accepted by a margin of 62%. Catherine watched as the defense platforms around Kepler Station went dark. She watched as the patrol fleets were recalled. She watched as the minefields were cleared. Everything that humanity had built to protect itself was dismantled piece by piece. Lieutenant Commander Nathan Cole was stationed at Kepler Station when the order came through. He was 30 years old, with short brown hair and the kind of face that had seen too much death too young. He had served on the front lines for 7 years. He had lost friends, ships, and parts of himself that he would never get back. His executive officer, Lieutenant Amy Walsh, stood beside him as they watched the last weapons platform power down. Do you believe this is real? Amy asked. Do you believe they actually want peace? Nathan was quiet for a long moment. He thought about all the battles he had fought. He thought about the Velthari ships he had seen cutting through civilian transports. He thought about the cold, empty eyes of the enemy soldiers. No, he said finally. I do not believe it. But it does not matter what I believe. The people have spoken. The treaty is signed. Amy looked out at the stars. Then what do we do? We watch, Nathan replied. We wait. And when the truth reveals itself, we fight. 6 months passed. The treaty held. Trade ships moved between human and Velthari space. Technology was exchanged. Diplomats smiled and shook hands and spoke of a new era of cooperation. Catherine Moore was reassigned to a desk job on Earth. The politicians did not want a war hero reminding people of the blood that had been spilled. They wanted everyone to forget the past and look toward the future. But Catherine did not forget. She spent her nights studying Velthari history. She read every report, every analysis, every piece of intelligence that humanity had gathered over 18 years of war. And the more she read, the more certain she became. The Velthari had never made peace with any species they had encountered. Not once in their 1,000-year history. Every treaty they had ever signed had been a prelude to conquest. Every offer of friendship had been a knife waiting to strike. She tried to warn the government. She sent reports. She requested meetings. She begged anyone who would listen. No one listened. On the night before everything changed. Catherine sat alone in her apartment and looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, beyond the darkness, the Velthari were waiting. She could feel it in her bones. The peace was a lie. The treaty was a trap. and humanity had walked right into it. She poured herself a drink and raised it to the window. "When the storm comes," she whispered to no one, "I will be ready." She did not know that the storm would come in less than 12 hours. She did not know that by morning, the galaxy would be burning once again. But she knew, with absolute certainty, that the war was not over, that it had only been sleeping, and it was about to wake up hungry. The Velthari expected humanity to break. Their scientists had studied humans for decades. They had built psychological profiles and behavioral models. They understood how humans thought, how they felt, how they reacted to stress and betrayal. Their calculations predicted that the surprise attack would shatter human morale completely. They expected surrender within weeks. They did not understand spite. 3 weeks after the invasion began, Catherine Moore vanished from Earth. The Velthari occupation forces searched for her everywhere. She was the most dangerous human alive, a symbol of resistance that needed to be crushed. But she had disappeared like smoke in the wind. She resurfaced on Titan's Reach, a small mining colony in the asteroid belt far from the main invasion routes. The colony had been overlooked by the Velthari. It was too small, too poor, too unimportant to bother with. That was exactly why Catherine chose it, deep beneath the surface. In tunnels carved by mining machines over generations, she began building something new. Word spread quietly through the human underground. Officers who had escaped the initial attacks. Soldiers whose units had been destroyed. Civilians who refused to accept defeat. They all found their way to Titan's Reach. Nathan Cole was among them. He had spent 3 weeks traveling through occupied space, hiding on cargo ships and refugee transports. His uniform was gone, replaced by civilian clothes. His patrol vessel was debris floating in space. But his determination was stronger than ever. When he finally reached Titan's Reach and saw Catherine Moore standing in the underground command center, he felt something shift inside him. There was still leadership. There was still a plan. There was still a chance. "Commander Cole," Catherine said, "I heard about the Dauntless. You saved 4,000 people." "I lost my ship," Nathan replied, "and half my crew." Catherine put her hand on his shoulder. "You made the enemy pay a price. That matters. Every price they paid chips away at their victory." She led him deeper into the tunnels. What Nathan saw amazed him. Hundreds of people were working in hidden workshops and hangar bays. Ships were being modified. Weapons were being built. Supplies were being stockpiled. It was a secret army growing in the darkness. "How is this possible?" Nathan asked. "The Velthari control all the shipping lanes, all the resources." Catherine smiled. It was not a warm smile. It was the smile of someone who had found a weakness in the enemy's armor. "The treaty," she said. "The same treaty they used to destroy us is now our greatest weapon." She explained the plan. The peace accord had included provisions for civilian trade ships to move freely through Velthari space. The Dominion had wanted this because it allowed them to place monitoring devices on human vessels. They thought they were gathering intelligence, but they had also created a loophole. "They can track our military ships," Catherine said. "They know every warship we have. But civilian vessels? Cargo haulers? Mining ships? Passenger transports? Those move freely, and they have no idea what we put inside them." Nathan understood immediately. "We turn our civilian fleet into a hidden navy." Exactly. Every cargo hauler becomes a weapons platform. Every mining ship becomes a missile carrier. Every transport becomes a troop ship. They will be looking for our military. They will never see our civilians coming. The work was slow and dangerous. Every modified ship had to appear completely normal on the outside. Every weapon had to be hidden behind false panels and cargo containers. Every crew member had to be trained to act like ordinary merchants. while carrying enough firepower to destroy a Veltari patrol. Amy Walsh had also found her way to Titan's Reach. Catherine promoted her to commander and gave her the first mission. There is a Veltari supply depot at Nexus Prime, Catherine said. It feeds their entire operation in the Kepler sector. I want it destroyed. Amy nodded. What resources do I have? 1 grain transport, 1,200 autonomous mines hidden in the cargo hold, and a crew of 20 volunteers who are willing to die for this mission. Amy looked at the tactical display. Nexus Prime was heavily defended. Getting in would require perfect timing and nerves of steel. I will need to pose as a legitimate trader, she said. The Veltari will scan our cargo. The mines are shielded. They will read as agricultural equipment. You will have one chance. Once you are inside the depot's security zone, you deploy the mines and run. Amy spent 2 weeks preparing. She learned to speak basic Veltari. She studied their customs, their protocols, their weaknesses. She became someone new, someone harmless, someone the enemy would never suspect. The mission was flawless. Her grain transport entered Nexus Prime without raising suspicion. The Veltari guards scanned the cargo and found nothing unusual. They waved her through to the unloading zone. Amy waited until she was in the center of the depot, surrounded by 30 Veltari supply ships. Then she pressed the button. 1,200 mines deployed in every direction. They attached themselves to hulls, to fuel tanks, to weapon systems. Then they detonated. The explosion was visible from 3 star systems away. 30 supply ships destroyed in an instant. Fuel reserves for an entire sector gone in seconds. The Veltari logistics network in chaos. Amy's transport was damaged by the blast, but she managed to limp away into hyperspace before the enemy could respond. When she returned to Titan's Reach, she was greeted as a hero, but Catherine knew this was just the beginning. They will adapt, she warned the gathered resistance leaders. They will increase security. They will become suspicious of every civilian ship. But that is exactly what we want. Nathan understood. Fear is a weapon too. Catherine nodded. Now they will have to inspect every transport. Guard every depot. Watch every shipping lane. We will stretch them thin. Make them paranoid. Turn their own occupation into a prison that traps them as much as it traps us. She looked around the room at the faces of the men and women who had refused to surrender. We are not an army yet, but we will become one. Every strike we make teaches us something new. Every victory builds our strength. Every day we survive is a day closer to our revenge. Nathan felt the fire burning in his chest. The Veltari had taken everything from humanity, but they had forgotten one crucial thing. Humans did not know how to give up Dot, and in the darkness of Titan's Reach, the seeds of their downfall were already being planted. 2 years into the occupation, the Veltari were learning to fear the dark. Their commanders had expected some resistance. Every conquered species fought back at first. It was natural, predictable, and ultimately pointless. The Veltari had crushed 100 rebellions over their 1,000-year history. They knew how to break the will of lesser species, but humanity was different. High Commander Varric stood before the Dominion Council and delivered his report. His forearms were folded behind his back, but his black eyes betrayed something that no Veltari leader had shown in centuries: uncertainty. The humans are everywhere, he said. They strike without warning and vanish before we can respond. Our supply convoys are attacked daily. Our garrisons are sabotaged nightly. Our officers are assassinated in their own headquarters. The council leader leaned forward. How many resistance fighters do they have? Varric hesitated. We do not know. Our intelligence suggests small groups scattered across occupied territory, but their coordination is unlike anything we have seen. They act as one even when separated by light years. Then find their command center and destroy it. We have tried, Varric replied. Every time we locate a resistance cell, it dissolves before we arrive. Their information network is faster than ours. They know our movements before we make them. The council leader's eyes narrowed. You are telling me that a conquered species is outmaneuvering the greatest military force in the galaxy? Varric said nothing. The truth was answer enough. On the occupied world of New Geneva, a Velthari garrison commander named Torlek experienced the human resistance firsthand that it began with small things. Equipment malfunctions, food that made soldiers sick, vehicles that refused to start. Torlek dismissed these as coincidences at first. Then, his second-in-command was found dead in his quarters, poisoned by something in his drinking water. To RLEK, tripled security. He brought in detection equipment to scan every delivery. He locked down the entire garrison and trusted. No one. It made no difference. The next attack came through the entertainment system. A virus hidden in a music file spread through every computer in the base. It did not destroy anything. It simply changed all the tactical displays to show human words. We are watching. We are waiting. We are coming. Torlek ordered the systems purged. It took 3 days. During that time, 2 more officers disappeared. Their bodies were never found. On the 4th night, Torlek woke to find a message carved into the wall above his bed. You sleep in stolen houses. You dream of stolen futures. When you wake, remember that every shadow hides a human who remembers what you took. He never slept peacefully again. This was the genius of Catherine Moore's strategy. She did not have the resources to defeat the Velthari in open battle. Not yet. But she could make their occupation a living nightmare. Human agents infiltrated every level of Velthari operations. They worked as servants, translators, maintenance workers, and suppliers. They learned the enemy's language, customs, and weaknesses. They gathered intelligence and transmitted it back to Titan's Reach. And when the time was right, they struck. Nathan Cole had become Catherine's most valuable field commander. His specialty was turning Velthari technology against them. During his time as a prisoner transport worker, he had learned how Velthari sensor networks operated. He understood their frequencies, their blind spots, their weaknesses. Using captured equipment, he built a system of false signals that confused enemy patrols. The Velthari would detect a massive human fleet in one sector and scramble their ships to intercept. They would find nothing. Meanwhile, real attacks happened somewhere else entirely. They are chasing ghosts, Nathan reported during a strategy meeting at Titan's Reach. Their commanders are jumping at shadows. Half their fleet is spread across the galaxy hunting phantom enemies. Catherine nodded with satisfaction. Good. Their paranoia is our ally. The more forces they waste on false threats, the fewer they have to guard real targets. What is our next objective? Nathan asked. Catherine pulled up a holographic display. It showed a massive construction facility hidden in an asteroid field. For 2 years, we have been building in secret, converting civilian ships, manufacturing weapons, training soldiers. Now, it is time to reveal what we have created. She activated the display. Nathan's eyes widened. Ships filled the screen. Hundreds of them. Cruisers, destroyers, carriers, and at the center, a massive flagship, unlike anything humanity had built before. This is the Resilience, Catherine said. Our new fleet carrier, built with human innovation and Velthari technology. Velthari technology? Nathan asked. Catherine smiled. The treaty required technology exchange, remember? They gave us their engines, shields, and weapon systems. They thought they were showing us how advanced they were. They thought we would become dependent on their designs. She zoomed in on the Resilience schematics. Instead, we took everything they gave us and made it better. Their engines, improved by human engineering. Their shields, reinforced with materials we developed. Their weapons, modified to overcome their own defenses. Nathan understood the beauty of it. The Valkyrie had handed humanity the keys to defeating them. They will not recognize their own technology, he said. Our ships will move faster, hit harder, and survive longer than anything they have. Exactly. And there is one more thing. Catherine activated another display. It showed the occupied worlds, each one marked with thousands of small dots. For 2 years, we have placed sleeper programs in every piece of Valkyrie equipment we can access. Their ships, their stations, their communications networks. Dormant viruses waiting for a single activation signal. When we attack, their entire fleet will go blind at the same moment. Catherine nodded. The treaty gave us access to their technology. Their technology gave us access to their networks. Their arrogance gave us the time to prepare. She turned to face the assembled commanders. Nathan stood among them, along with Amy Walsh and dozens of others who had survived the dark years of occupation. We have 200 ships. They have thousands. But we have something they do not understand and cannot counter. She paused, letting the weight of her words settle over the room. We have the memory of every person they murdered. Every world they burned. Every promise they broke. We have rage that has been sharpened into a weapon. And we have patience that they mistook for surrender. Catherine looked at the stars on the tactical display. Somewhere out there, the Valkyrie were celebrating their victory. They believed humanity was beaten. They believed the resistance was just a nuisance that would eventually fade. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Prepare the fleet, Catherine ordered. In 3 days, we take back the Kepler corridor. In 3 days, we remind the galaxy what happens when you underestimate humanity. Nathan felt the fire burning in every cell of his body. The time for hiding was over. The time for revenge had finally come. The Battle of Kepler Corridor would become the most studied military engagement in galactic history. Scholars and strategists from 100 species would analyze every detail for centuries to come. They would marvel at the tactics, the technology, and the sheer audacity of what humanity accomplished. But for the men and women who fought it, there was no time for marvel. There was only the cold certainty of what had to be done. High Commander Varak had assembled the largest Valkyrie armada in 300 years. 600 warships filled the Kepler corridor, their weapons charged and their crews hungry for battle. For 2 years, the human resistance had been a thorn in his side. Now he would crush it once and for all. His scouts had detected the human fleet moving toward the corridor. 200 ships. Less than half his strength. Varak almost laughed when he received the report. They are coming to die, he told his officers. After everything we have done to them, they still do not understand their place in the universe. He opened a broadcast channel to the approaching human fleet. UN vessels, you are outnumbered 3 to 1. Your species lacks the capacity for organized warfare. Surrender now, and I may show mercy to your surviving population. The response came from Admiral Catherine Moore, standing on the bridge of the Resilience. Commander Varak, 3 years ago, your people offered us peace. We accepted in good faith. We opened our borders. We shared our defenses. We trusted your word. Her voice was calm, steady, and cold as the void between stars. You used that trust to murder millions. You enslaved billions. You burned our worlds and scattered our people across the galaxy. You thought you understood humanity. You thought you knew what we were capable of. She paused. You were wrong. The battle began not with weapons fire, but with a signal. Every ship in the human fleet transmitted simultaneously. The activation code spread through Valkyrie systems like wildfire. Every piece of technology that humanity had touched during the occupation woke up at the same instant. Navigation systems went insane. Ships that had been in perfect formation suddenly found themselves unable to determine their own positions. Communications became chaos as frequencies shifted randomly. Targeting computers locked onto friendly vessels instead of enemies. On the bridge of his flagship, Varric watched in horror as his fleet tore itself apart. "What is happening?" he demanded. "Override the systems." "We cannot," his tactical officer reported. "The virus is in everything. Our own technology has turned against us." This was the trap within the trap. The Velthari had used the peace treaty to destroy humanity's defenses. Humanity had used the occupation to plant the seeds of Velthari destruction. The human fleet struck like a surgical blade. Nathan Cole commanded the Phoenix, a cruiser that had once been a cargo transport. Its engines burned hotter than any Velthari ship. Its shields were layered with materials that absorbed enemy fire. Its weapons were calibrated to pierce Velthari armor at its weakest points. "All ships, target their command vessels," Catherine ordered over the fleet channel. "Cut off the head, and the body will fall." Nathan pushed the Phoenix into the heart of the enemy formation. Around him, human ships moved with perfect coordination. They had practiced this battle 1,000 times in simulations. Every captain knew exactly where to be and when to strike. The Velthari tried to respond, but their confused systems made coordination impossible. Ships collided with each other. Weapons fired in empty space. Orders were lost in the static. Amy Walsh led a squadron of fast attack ships through the chaos. Her target was the Velthari supply train at the rear of the formation. Without fuel and ammunition, even the surviving enemy ships would be helpless. "Strike team, on my mark," she called out. 3, 2, 1, fire. 40 missiles streaked through space. The Velthari supply ships tried to evade, but their navigation was still scrambled. The explosions lit up the corridor like a second sun. On the Resilience, Catherine watched the tactical display with grim satisfaction. The battle was going exactly as planned. But she knew the hardest part was still to come. Varric was many things, but he was not stupid. He would eventually restore order to his fleet. And even with their losses, the Velthari still outnumbered humanity. "Signal all ships," Catherine ordered. Phase 2. Draw them deeper into the corridor. The human fleet began a controlled retreat. They moved slowly, firing as they went, making the Velthari think they were weakening. Varric took the bait. "After them! After them!" he commanded. "They are breaking. Pursue and destroy." His remaining ships surged forward, eager to finish the battle. They did not notice the human vessels that had slipped behind them during the chaos. They did not see the mines being deployed in their path. They did not realize they were being herded into a kill zone. When Catherine gave the order, the trap closed. Mines detonated in every direction. The human ships that had been retreating turned and attacked. The vessels that had slipped behind the enemy opened fire on their exposed rear. The Velthari formation shattered. Ships tried to flee in every direction, but there was nowhere to go. The mines blocked their escape routes. Human cruisers hunted them down one by one. The corridor became a graveyard of burning metal and frozen bodies. Varric's flagship was the last to fall. Nathan Cole led the attack personally, his ship scoring the final hits that brought down the enemy's shields. "High Commander," Catherine broadcast to the crippled vessel. "Your fleet is destroyed. Your supply lines are cut. Your occupation is over. Surrender now, and your surviving crew will be treated with the mercy your species never showed to ours." There was a long silence. Then Varric's voice came through, broken and bitter. "We accept your terms." The battle was over. 200 human ships had destroyed 600 Velthari warships. It was the greatest victory in humanity's history, but Catherine knew the war was not finished. Not yet. The liberation of the occupied worlds took another 6 months. Valkyrie garrisons surrendered one by one as news of the defeat spread. The Dominion Council, facing rebellion across their empire, sued for peace. This time, the treaty was written by humanity. Catherine Moore stood before the Valkyrie High Council and delivered the terms. You will release every human prisoner. You will withdraw from every human world. You will pay reparations for every life lost, every city burned, every crime committed during your occupation. The council leader trembled. And if we refuse? Catherine smiled, and there was no warmth in it whatsoever. Then we will teach you what humanity does to those who break faith with us. Not once, not briefly, but for as long as it takes for you to understand that some enemies are not worth making. The Valkyrie accepted every term. Years later, Admiral Nathan Cole stood on the observation deck of a space station orbiting Earth. A young officer approached him and asked a question that many had wondered. Admiral, what was the most important lesson of the war? Nathan was quiet for a long moment. He thought about Catherine Moore, who had refused to give up when everyone else had surrendered. He thought about Annie Walsh, who had struck the first blow against the enemy's supply lines. He thought about all the men and women who had fought and died and never stopped believing. The Valkyrie thought our kindness was weakness, he said finally. They thought our trust was stupidity. They thought our desire for peace was cowardice. They built a trap, certain that we would walk into it like animals. He turned to face the young officer. And we did walk into it. But they forgot one thing. Trapped animals are the most dangerous kind. They fight with everything they have because they have nothing left to lose. Nathan looked out at the stars that humanity now controlled. We turned their trap into their tomb. We used their own treaty to destroy them. We took their arrogance and made them choke on it. He smiled, and it was the smile of a species that had learned to never trust easily again. The galaxy will remember this lesson. When you offer humanity peace, mean it. When you shake our hand, keep your word. Because if you betray us, if you break your promises, if you think you can hurt us and walk away, we will find you. He turned back to the viewport. And we will make absolutely certain that you never forget what happens when you underestimate the human race. Outside the window, the stars burned bright and endless. Humanity had earned its place among them. And no one would ever take that away again.